nekoliko bolj budi po naši notranji kavici, po zaslugi naših sponzorjev. Začenjamo z našim drugim sklopom. We are starting with our second session. I would like to invite Krasimira and Wilhelm from Alexander Street. Rada bi povabila na odr Krasimiro Agberovo z Alexander Street. She will introduce us the lecture, Alexander Street Initiatives for Closing the Gap Between Open Access and Subscriptions Content.
Dobar dan. It's my pleasure being here. So as you can imagine, I can understand quite well when you speak, but I will not try to to speak your language as well because I'm afraid that I will make mistakes. So I'm Bulgarian. You probably have noticed from my name. I'm sales director for Europe for Alexander Street. And as you know already, probably we are now part of ProQuest. We have been acquired last year. I'm very glad to be able to present to you today our initiatives in trying to closing the gap which has been opened recently due to the explosive growth of open access initiatives between open access and subscription content. To close that gap, we at Alexander Street have been working together with libraries and archives around the world in finding new concepts, new methods of integrating open access and subscription content, because we believe that only in this way we could help scholars accessing the knowledge, the information they need, and still to access it in a much richer and comprehensive way. In the next minutes, I will share with you the details of two projects of us, namely Open Music Library and Anthropology Commons. These two projects have been built to bring the best integration, the best access and discoverability to the digital content that matters most in these fields, namely music and anthropology, regardless of content being open access or paid. The idea I put forward today is that we can close that gap, separating open access from paid resources by focusing on discipline, communities, and collaboration, and moving academic publishing to an integrated view of a discipline. As we all know, so some time has already gone since we had the Budapest Open Access initiative launched in 2002. And we also know about this huge growth of open access content since then. As you can see, based on a latest report from the Directory of Open Access Journals, nowadays we can use over 10,000 open access journals. And we know also how many scientists are publishing themselves their work using some of the open content licenses in addition. But I see here also a problem. This is good, of course, but the problem which comes out of this explosive growth of open access movement is that we now face also an emergence of the schism between what is paid and what is openly accessible in the scientific knowledge. We know that even publishers who have embraced the idea of open access and who published open access content have decided, unfortunately, to segregate their open access content from their paid content, and they are creating separate websites for their open access content. For me, as a former researcher and university professor, for me this is not good for scholars. This becomes counterproductive for research because the researchers' goal is to have seamless access to everything what they need, and they should actually have this access very simplified and make it fast and easy accessible. Today I want to show you that there are options to close this gap, that we could see the open access not only as a challenge for the whole academic publishing sector, but also we could see it as a very fruitful ground for innovation and collaboration between publishers and libraries towards one common goal, namely the seamless access to world's knowledge. At Alexander Street, we were always focusing on disciplines and answering the specific needs of our end users, which are librarians, researchers, university professors, and students. From the very beginning of our publishing program, which is back in the year 2000, we started curating multimedia content into discipline collections or into interdisciplinary collections. Our aim is certainly to bring the best organization, access, and discoverability to the content that matters most within one discipline. So we are offering our platforms, we're very innovative. We have set up the standards worldwide for offering the multimedia content for researchers, where the cross-search could bring cross-search, let's say, in this case on a music work, could bring all the articles, all the reference works, all the performances in audio or video format, etc., etc., everything, monographs, research articles in one place. We enhance the value of that content through very deep semantic indexing and especially developed controlled vocabularies in each subject area. How we work on our open access initiatives. Of course, Alexander Street is a commercial publisher, and we have to offer paywalls to our content because we have to generate a revenue for the institutions who are providing us the content creators, the content providers. But at the same time, we have been and we are still very supportive to the open access idea, and I will tell you why. Because traditionally we work with many archives worldwide, because a lot of our content comes from the world best known archives, and this is unpublished and archival content. So we know very well the missions of those archives, which in most cases is an open mission. So this has brought the discussion about how we could help archives and many public or national libraries, for example, to fulfill their open mission. Secondly, as I told you, we specialized in discipline-specific publishing, in humanities mostly, and in social sciences. And both in music and anthropology, which are actually two of our key disciplines, the openly licensed content has enormously grown during last years. As a third point, we believe that scholarship cannot be restricted to content that is freely available or to content which is behind paywalls. So scholars need systems and tools that allow them to discover and use both at the same time. In the sphere of music, which was our first initiative in open access, you can imagine that the situation is quite difficult. On one hand, these big music labels are very protective of the rights they hold for major performances. And we have to be honest, we don't see a big chance that these labels will really make the majority of their content openly accessible in the near future. On the other hand, there is much excellent content available freely, openly, to the study of music that is in the public domain. And this includes manuscripts of scores, older music journals, libretti, concert programs, images, other ephemera. All this content is extremely important for musicologists. But I don't want to say that this is only old content. There is a lot of recent content, great content, which comes from open journals or open monographs. And also, as I already mentioned, many contemporary composers and musicologists, artists themselves, choose to release their works using some open content licenses, such as, for example, the Creative Commons. If you are familiar with the Creative Commons organization reports, which are issued annually, Creative Commons licensed works have nearly tripled in the last 5 years. And they are now over, the number of titles is now over 1.2 billion. All this content, which is created thanks to those open content licenses, exists in different formats. These could be articles, so different types of text materials, video, audio, etc., etc. And they exist on so many different platforms. I have just listed few of them here. Besides, all of us work for or have worked for organizations like big national libraries or big public libraries, or in many cases some institutional or research institutional libraries, some cultural heritage organizations, which are also publishing open access, digitizing first and just then publishing openly their content, their archives. I'm showing here three examples actually. One is the project Gallica of the French National Library. The other is the Digital Library of Spain. They offer amazing content, millions of digitized records. And the third example is very relevant to the sphere, to the field of music. This is the so-called New York Philharmonic Digital Archives. And I have chosen here one score of musical work, which is with the annotation, or with the annotations of Leonard Bernstein. So the New York Phil has digitized all the scores with the annotations of all those conductors who have performed on their stages. You can imagine how important these annotated scores are for musicologists and for conductors and other performers, artists. So, as a summary until up to this point, there is a lot of content. The problem is, how are we going to find it, and but to find actually the good stuff, evaluated, reviewed, peer-reviewed stuff. So how we have worked in the sphere of music? We have considered few key issues in this, which researchers are facing nowadays. First thing, music is dealt with quite poorly by generic search engines like Google or vendor discovery services. Quality content from reputable archives are often buried at the end of the search results. And also very important, you know that distinguishing materials about Mozart from those by Mozart isn't always possible, and it's not so easy. We thought, okay, probably some of the great projects like Europeana or the Digital Public Library of America could help. Yes, there are again millions of records, millions of titles, great stuff. But try to search only for scores, musical scores. It's almost a causa perduta. And it's also even if you have the good luck to find some scores titles, then it is very difficult to link that title to a relevant performance, to a relevant further article about this work, etc., etc. Because of this, we thought, okay, why not using our experience with deep semantic indexing, with all these vocabularies which we have created? Why don't we use our great platform development experience and create one space which could bring all this content together? We get in touch with all these possible partners, so which we have selected at the first stage, and we started working on the development of the idea. There were a few challenges. The most important things for us were to come up with sustainable ways by which publishers, archives, and libraries can collaborate to get the large amount of that content which is still not digitized out on the open web, and then to find ways to allow scholars and students to discover and use content that's free and for fee at the same time in context, and on top of this to create a network, to collaborate, to communicate, because actually these are the main pillars of the open access initiative. First, free access to knowledge, and the second, community and collaboration. That's why we have, so you can see already, you can see the page. The project Open Music Library is accessible. It's available to be accessed freely for almost about a year. And you can see here some numbers which are showing how fast, just within 1 year, the content and the content in this project and the network of people joining the network, the project is growing. You already know that Alexander Street has an extensive portfolio of music products. All of these products have been, they are, actually these products are not offered for free. But what we have done, we have integrated them in our open music library, and We offer the same experience for a cross search, the same semantic indexing, controlled vocabularies, etc. We made all our metadata openly accessible, and they are, our users could use them when they create their own content. So in this way, you could, for example, search for, let's say, La Bohème as a work, as a title by Puccini, and then you could find all related scores, reference works, articles, performances, etc., etc., coming together, where you could see as a sign, I don't know, I think it's not very visible, but you can see which of the content is for openly accessible and which is against paywall. So the content which is against paywall, you can see, for that content, you can see the bibliographic description, the abstract, and you can also either watch 30 seconds of a video, listen to 30 seconds of an audio, or see one page of the content. Many national libraries and big archives worldwide are participating in this project, and you can just find the name of some of them, like British Library, Library of Congress, the French National Library, Polish National Library, Danish National Library, etc., the Spanish, etc. We are inviting you to become our partner as well, and to participate in our great project. How the system has been created, we have applied the so-called community-centered model, where we are creating profiles of composers, all kinds of musicians, of musicologists, performers, arrangers, etc. And we are effectively forming a research hub and social graph for people. In this way, our users can store their content, also creating, let's say, playlists, lists, which they can after that share with their peers, and they can also use this research further, where they can use the follow option, and within this, with this option, they could get notifications when new content has been added to this specific learning or research object. This is everything possible thanks to the permanent unique identifier, which has been related to each learning and research object. So if you are interested in seeing more about this, you can either visit the website or come to me after that at the stand. I can show you more. So I will not go through these slides presenting our Anthropology Commons project, because it works in the same way. We are integrating publishing models, paid publishing models with open publishing models, as well as paywall content with open access content, but we just apply one different, slightly different approach, where we take 10% of all our revenue received from subscriptions and purchases of our paid content, and there we put the content where we don't have the agreement of the content provider to offer their content for free. There are many archives who that just don't have this policy. They need to fund their further activities. For example, Royal Anthropological Institute, we are their exclusive content provider, but they just want to be paid. So we have to create behind the scenes, three different publishing models and integrate them. So for some archives, we just present their content against payment, and we pay them royalty. And then from those 10%, which we use from our revenue for the development of the other publishing models, we fund, so to say, the open access content. So I would like to summarize. So we believe that it is this integration of paid and free content all in one place and contextualized by a disciplined community that will help us close the gap between access models. This enables researchers to discover and use open and subscription content because one does not exclude the other. They often complement each other. With our Open Music Library and Anthropology Commons, our aim is not only to advance the state of the art in knowledge discovery, but also to increase opportunities for creative reuse, research, and collaboration with the academic communities. I invite you all to get to know both products using the links provided, and I look forward to hearing what you think and also to have your probably suggestions for partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Krasimira. Because of the time, I think it's better that the questions are at the end of the session.
Okay.
So, torej bomo nadaljevali. Vabim Wilhelm Widmarka from Sweden. Wilhelm je direktor Stockholmske univerzitetne knjižnice in predsednik odbora za LIBER. Predstavil nam bo strategijo 2018 to 2022 strategy LIBER. Thank you.
Thank you. LIBER. How many in the audience have heard about LIBER before? Well, it's plenty, so there will be many librarians here and people, and I'm glad that you have heard about this international organization. Earlier this week, our new strategy was launched on our website, and I will talk about the new strategy. And the new strategy is about what we are talking about today. It is really about open science and how we can reach open science in collaboration. So what is LIBER? You raised your hand and said that you know LIBER, but I will tell you some more about it. We're the largest European research library network, and it was founded in 1971, and it's based in The Hague in Netherlands. And here is a photo from our annual conference now in Patras this summer. So we go around Europe and have conferences in different parts of Europe, and this was really warm. It was about 40 degrees when we were standing there. So 400 libraries across Europe. You can see it's in every country in Europe, and even in United States we have associate members. So it's a huge organization. And the main part of the libraries are from Northern Europe, but we have libraries from all across of Europe, and we want more libraries to come into the organization and work with us, because as science is international, our work together in LIBER should be international. We should network. We have the same questions. And especially in this open science context, we have to be international and work together. Then how is the organization run? It's based on non-profit work. We have a board of 13 members from different libraries in Europe. And we elect new people to the board every year, I think, nearly. So we have 13 places and we get new people all the time. We have also 3 special advisors. Paul is one of the special advisors. And then we have a big office in Hague with 10 people working in the office. So it is a big organization. But I think the most important is all the other people working within the organization. We have over 100 volunteers working in different steering committees, working groups, and other things. So here it is important you meet people from other countries. You can discuss your issues together and get together to work for the future. So together we help libraries support world-class research, because this is the most important. The libraries are supporters of the research. We help research happen, and we do it in a collaborative way. Cross-border, of course. Increasingly data intensive. We have heard about data all day, and the libraries is filled with data and information. And open is the most important for us for the future. All the data should be open, and we have to work for it. So what about the strategy? I said it was launched last week, but a strategy takes a lot of time to make a new strategy. So we sat down for nearly 2 years with a group to build up the new strategy and discussed what will be in the strategy. Then we went back to LIBER to discuss it at the annual conference with all our members. Are we in the right direction? And then we went back home again and discussed how can we refine the strategy due to what you have said as members. So now we have the strategy. Research libraries, powering sustainable knowledge in the digital age. And it's a 5-year strategy, so it's from 2018 to 2022. If you will have a strategy, you need a vision, you need something to work against. And the vision we created, we looked at the research landscape, and we looked about the open science movement, we looked about where is research going. So we made some assumptions that will happen in 2022 if we together can work as a good community. The first thing, as we have discussed today, open access is the main form of publishing. So we suppose that in 2022, open access will be the main form of publishing. And you will hear, sooner you will hear about it will be 2020, open access is predominant. But we say during this time, it will be predominant way of publishing. Research data, we heard about research data. It's a lot of good work going on research data out in Europe and the rest of the world. But research data in 2022 is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Fair data, as we heard the earlier speaker talk about. Digital skills underpin a more open and transparent research life cycle. Paul talked about the research cycle, and to have this, you have to have new digital skills. Both librarians and the researchers need to work with the skills. I think in the future, we really need to educate each other in the digital skills. Research infrastructure is participatory, tailored and scaled to the needs of the diverse disciplines. We have, within science, we have a lot of different disciplines, and all of the disciplines are now depending on the research infrastructure, and to build a good research infrastructure. And we have heard about the open science cloud in Europe and other infrastructures that we have to work with together. And the infrastructures should be interoperable with each others. So here it is important, and it is really costly for all of the universities to build those infrastructures. And tomorrow's cultural heritage is built on today's digital information. Today we have a lot of digital information that we don't collect. The Twitter feeds, the Facebook feeds, everything. That will be tomorrow's cultural heritage. But do we collect it? I don't know. Some do, but we really need to think about what are we doing when we now have gone over to the digital age and we have our cultural heritage out in the cloud. So, the strategy. This is a really nice picture, I think. And the strategy, we think that libraries, we have them. I don't think that libraries is the center of the world, but here, as a library association, we have the libraries in the center. And the libraries in 2022 will be platforms for innovative scholarly communication. It's everything we talk about, scholarly communication. They will be hubs for digital skills and services and partners in research infrastructure. So you see around the ring, around everything here, we have the open access, research data, cultural heritage, participatory research infrastructure, and digital skills. So this is the strategy, and then we have to have enablers how to proceed with the strategy. And that is, of course, one thing I'm doing today. It's advocacy on communication. We need to talk about the different things we are doing. International project participation, policy development, leaderships and skills building. Leadership is really important now to change the leadership to work in a new environment. Then we have to have a good leadership. And of course, international alignment and cooperation and coordination. So to meet this strategic goal, we have set up 3 different steering committees. And the first one is Innovative Scholarly Communication, Libraries as a Platform for Innovative Scholarly Communication. And today we have 2 working groups within it. It is Copyright and Legal Matters and Open Access. Then we also have innovative metrics. That is something that is really important for the future. How can we look at the metrics in another way? Today we're stable in impact factors and citation. We need to have a broader look on the metrics. And what is really important within LIBER is that we have people working in working groups, but we have also the European projects aligned to the different strategic directions. So here you see those 4 projects are aligned within this strategy. So it's really important we work with projects and working groups. I will be the leader for this strategic direction and lead the steering committee. The other one are libraries as a hub for digital skills and services. And working groups we have today is digital humanities and digital cultural heritage. And then leadership. And also, of course, projects. And the third strategic direction is libraries as partners in research infrastructure. And today we have working groups, Architecture Forum, and Research Data Management. But will these working groups I've talked about now, will they help to reach the strategy? No, we have to do other things. We have to start new working groups, start new projects to reach the goals. So this one is really a messy picture instead of the straight strategy. But here is discussions we have had in the steering committees and within LIBER. What do we need to start working on during these years. So we have citizen science that we will hear more about today, innovative peer review, information ethics. It's a lot of things that we need to discuss and help our researchers with. Their libraries can make a change. So I will go through some working groups that we are thinking of that should be created during those following years. So, digital skills of staff and researchers. We have to define new services needed for students and researchers. We have to look at what services do we have within the libraries today, and what services do we need for the future, and what services shall we stop doing, even. Define new skills needed to provide those services. Assessment and evaluation of success of new services, and define which, I said it already, which old services should be disengaged. This we can talk about within a working group and speak to each other out in Europe. Changing the service development philosophy, foster service development philosophy based on user-centric design, and share best practices on agile development and user engagement. I think this is the most important. We have to work from our users into the library and create new services. And we have to work in a more agile way, not make 5-year plans. You can have 5-year strategy, but don't make long plans and wait for a goal 5 years, because everything will change during those years. You have to be prepared to change your thoughts during the years. Peer review, it's really important, and I think peer review has to change as it is today. We have to open up for some more innovative peer review. And this is maybe not a library issue, but in the libraries, when you support researchers, you have to know about what is happening within peer review. How can you support your researchers with thinking about peer review? Citizen science, you will hear more about that, and it's of course an important working group to start within LIBER to reach the open science goals. Information ethics. Now when we are working with all this big data, and everything, we have to start talking about the information ethics as well. Libraries need to engage in an advocate for development of information ethics in the interest of the research community. And I think libraries can do this in a really good way. Text and data mining, LIBER worked a lot on advocacy for text and data mining within the Copyright Act now. And now we have to start make different services to the researchers to work with text and data management. Educational programs. It's not easy to text and data mine. We have to sample examples of how you can do with text and data mining. And this is really, I think, for research, an important future, to work more and more with text and data mining. With all the information that is out in the world, you can't really read everything, you have to mine as well. So that is also important working group. And then we have the Semantic Web. How can we collect everything and make it interoperability with open and linked data? Map the initiatives, share best practices. This is a huge field, and libraries are starting to doing this, and I think we have to do it a lot more. We shouldn't have our closed catalogs. We should have semantic data that we can share on the internet in a better way. So, join a group. All staff in LIBER libraries are welcome to join the group. I can't promise you that you will be accepted to a group, but talk to the group leaders if you want to get involved, and learn from others, share your knowledge, and work together to make a stronger voice in Europe. And of course, this is promotion material from LIBER, so here we have a person talking about why she is working within data management and what she finds interesting with that. So that's about the strategy, but we have also activities within LIBER. So LIBER as an organization. These are the international projects we are working on. And we have all over Europe, we have libraries participating in the different projects. And I think there will be more projects, so look out. We are discussing within LIBER and the library community what projects are interesting and which libraries should be involved here. And LIBER often take a lead in some of the projects. So it's really an important way to move things forward. Advocacy. LIBER has become really an important stakeholder in EU. We have been there to discuss especially the Copyright Act, but also open access, research data management, infrastructure and things like that. We get invited to talk to the members in the parliament and to discuss those things. And as the publishers are there talking, we need to be there talking as well, because we have to advocate the things that it is important for the research infrastructure for the future. We have also talked to the MEPs. We have gone out to all our member libraries now with the Copyright Act and said, talk to your national MEPs, talk to them about what our library is doing. And we have prepared statements, so they have, in a lot of countries here, they have talked to the MEPs to make difference.
What's the name IP?
Member of European Parliament. Then here is our president, Kristina Hormia-Poutinainen, and she sits on the Open Science Policy platform, and that is really important. She's an important voice at the Open Science Policy platform. And she goes back to LIBER and discuss, they write a lot of papers, and she go back to LIBER and discuss the paper with us and go back to the Open Science Policy platform. So that LIBER is represented there is really, you can see that we are important. Leadership skills building will work a lot with leadership and how we can change the leadership philosophy within libraries. And we do a lot of workshop training and programs at conferences about leadership and the changing roles of both staff and the leaders, the leadership and skills building. And of course, the annual conference. It's Europe's biggest gathering of research library professionals each year. We have about 500 people coming to the annual conference. Last one was in Patras, and the next one is in Lille. And probably we will get Budapest soon, so it will be near to Slovenia as well. So this, I think, is one of the most important library conferences we have in Europe, and it's really good talks and good workshops on the conference. Leadership seminars, we have library directors that also have been library directors for many years. We need to meet each other and go to meet other people, and this seminar has been both for Asia, United States and Europe to meet each other and talk about what is leadership for the future. Then we have had also leadership seminars each year for upcoming library directors, people that works in libraries and want to become a library director. And to get that international work in the beginning is really good. And when you are going this course, you go out to have a mentor in another European library. I have had 3 people at my place that has been mentees for me. And it's really nice to meet them. They weren't library directors when they started, but now they are. So I think this is really important for the future to have this common European education for leaders. Architecture seminar. We have each year an architecture seminar, and this year it will be in Vienna. And maybe you think we talk about digitalization, everything. Is there a room for the library room now? Yes, of course, but the library room shouldn't be just a room for storing books. It should be something else. So we really have to work with the architecture for the libraries. And what are we using the library room for? Policy development. We need to discuss different policies, and we have done this during the recent years. These are some of the policies, and it's sharing best practice to help everyone working with the research library profession. One of the last policy we sent out was 5 principles for negotiating open access with publishers. And I think this is important. We send out a message from LIBER with all our members to hear publishers. This is what the libraries think about the negotiations, how to reach open access. So it's really important that we do this together. This is a person that says that LIBER is like a star. When he looks out, if he needs some light, he looks for LIBER, and that's really nice of him to say. And I think many people see LIBER like a leading star within the library community. But then we shouldn't just work within the library community. We have to have international alignment and coordination with many different organizations. Here is only a few of the organizations that LIBER works together with. And you can see like Science Europe, even PLOS, Eurocris, it's different organizations outside of the library world that we have to cooperate with to reach the goals. And many of those organizations come to LIBER and say, we want to cooperate with you. You are a big organization that can make things happen. So we really want to cooperate with you. So LIBER, Europe's biggest research library network, it is only 495 euros per year to be a member of LIBER. And if you become a member to LIBER and send one to the LIBER conference, you have the half conference fee, and then you have those money back. And if you are looking on money within this world, if you are thinking of what will an APC cost, this is nothing. So join LIBER if you're not a member of LIBER. Thank you.
Very much. So the questions will be in the end of this session. Okay, thank you.
Zdaj pa dopoldanski del zaključujemo s predstavnikom založniške hiše Taylor and Francis. Tako da vabim na oder Nicolo Pierinija, ki nam bo predstavil, ali je lahko odprta znanost, ali lahko da nek pomemben vpliv. So the lecture of Nicolo Pierini is Open Research, Make an Impact.
if I find it. I'm sorry, I'm searching for a presentation. I am in the folder, maybe it's not. Hello.
Hello. I will
It
try.
should be
it's
around
desktop.
here. Ah, oh,
Desktop.
okay.
Yes, sorry.
No problem. Yes, it happened.
So
here.
it is.
Desktop, fantastic this one. Fantastic, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Buongiorno a tutti. As you can see, I speak the same language of Clarivate Analytics. Sorry about that, but you know, this is not my fault. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you, Scientific Knowledge Services and University of Ljubljana, CTK, everyone, for this fantastic event about open science. Really, it's nice to see that the debate is really flowing, and we are here. I will try to demonstrate why the debate should flow, because the collaboration will flow after the debate. And making an impact is a choice, basically. It's a choice between all parties, so the publisher, librarians, and authors. And I think that there are authors and students in this audience, no? How many authors and students? Not much. Maybe I had understand not correctly. But this is not a problem. This is not a problem really, because what we have to say is why it has to be a choice to make an impact, and how making an impact should be developed, an activity that should be developed over time. So basically, what is the impact, first of all? Well, the impact is something really easy, something really simple, that we have heard many discussions around here, and we will this afternoon as well, on how we should change our metrics, how we should innovate our measures in relation to articles. But I think there's something really simple that all librarians should basically try to implement, is that impact means that research should be read, understood beyond academia. That the research should be valuable because it is understood or because it is practically useful beyond academia. I'm not saying that the research which is completely really complicated and not easy to be explained to the academia, outside the academia world, is not valuable, not at all. But all research can somehow be treated in this way to make it useful for the people, for organizations, for private organizations as well. So this is a definition from the Research Excellence Framework in the UK, which is a very important organization, which also assess the research in the UK, defending as well on how impactful and open is the research. You can have the definition here, which is, again, very easy. And this is a survey that we have run in 2015, which is basically kind of explaining what is openness. So what is the impact, what is the openness? And it's also very easy, because this is what authors told us. Authors told us, I want my article to be readable by everyone, everywhere. So I want my article to be discoverable, as easy as possible. They told that as well, that they want the article to be shared anywhere, all over the world. And this really links to the ownership of the article. So if they tell us here that they want to retain the copyright of the work, it means that they, in our opinion, also should help the whole, process, not only on publishing, but on sharing the work. So basically, sharing the article, it is something that we help, but it's something that libraries and authors as well should help, because authors know exactly how to share an article. We can, of course, help. We have to help promoting an article. We are very good in promoting journals, but promoting an article, it's really, really difficult, because the author knows much better than us how to promote it, knows much better than us what are the people that he has to speak to, the networks he has to speak to, knows much better than us the people that basically could understand the content of the author or could reuse the content of the author, because with the CC BY license, the content can be reusable and can be reused in many, many ways, even commercially, looking at private enterprises. So we have many examples of articles that have been shared and have been successful, also, of course, due to their content. For example, an article have reached 100,000 downloads because it was about treating guidelines on how to treat the Lyme disease. And when you have an argument like that, which is by itself really useful, really impactful. Of course, this article was downloaded in less than a month, 100,000 times, simply because many practitioners of medicine, so not only researchers and professors inside academia, but many practitioners, medical professionals outside academia were reading this article and using it to basically, using it with patients. So what can be more impactful and more useful than that? This is another example of an article that is impactful. You can have here why these two authors have decided to make it open access. It is about, inequality for Roma people in Europe. And it's interesting how usually articles have been judged because of the circulation. Impact factor, number of downloads, number of citations, which citations. So all of these numbers that, as you can see, are not easy to be evaluated. Also because, for example, we have a number of tweets here, which 136 tweets. But again, when an author comes to your library and maybe tells you, I have a lot of tweets, you should try maybe to speak with the author and tell him if these tweets are positive, if these tweets are negative, why some tweets are positive, why some tweets are negative. And I am aware that, the world of social media, everyone can tweet and everyone can have a say, even when possibly they shouldn't. But it doesn't mean that they cannot, so they do. So people do have a say in Twitter. So the analysis of the circulation only on numbers is not enough. So there should be something more, some will to share the article and analyze how this sharing of the article is going. And, again, this is another example on how open access is having an influence on sharing, because, as you can imagine, open access, in my opinion, is possibly one of the most important aspects of open science and open research. This is a graph which shows basically all these arrows that you can see represent the usage of journals. These journals have been flipped to open access, so they have changed completely their business models. At the end of last year, December 2016, they have become open access journals, and basically on average, their usage has grown for something like 247%. And the biggest one, the steepest one, the orange one, is pharmaceutical biology, and the usage has grown for 670%, something like that. So an enormous growth in usage. So yes, this is what open access does to journals, on average. But as you can also see, so not all journals have grown on the same level, have grown on the same time, have grown on the same level. So there are many other factors involved on this growth. And again, we think that how the author helps us on sharing the work really can really make the difference. So we have here basically have come out with some ways on how to maximize the impact of an article. And this is something that we can offer to any author, basically. So any author that publishes with Taylor and Francis, and well, of course, if the author is willing to publish open access, it's much easier, as you can imagine, on how to make an article impactful. But any author who publishes with Taylor and Francis can have this service, which is free, because this is let's say, it's part of the publishing service. So it's not something that anyone should pay because of it. So it's a free service, which is, inside the publishing service. And again, authors can help us on sharing the article. Authors should take ownership of sharing the articles, even when it's not open access. When you have an example of an article which is subscription-based, there are some things that usually people tend to forget that, in my opinion, are very important. There are some free reprints that can be shared anywhere when the article is not open access. So when the access is, let's say, closed behind the famous paywall, but at least, for example, when you have 4 authors writing an article, you have 200 reprints. And this can be kind of, in my opinion, a beginning on sharing an article in a, let's say, maybe fruitful, impactful way. Even something smaller like these things, like adding the article in the email signature on any email signature, on any email that the author is sending. Adding the article to the course reading list if the author, which is always, well, that's always, which is usually the case, basically when the author has an academic profession and a professor or a teacher anywhere, and update any web page to which the author has ownership or does not have ownership, but at least has a grasp on that web page. We have here also the very famous, the use of social media. It is, again, very difficult because it is not easy to evaluate how to use social media. It is not easy to come out with a proper or perfect conclusion on how to tweet properly, on how to use social media properly. But, at least trying to use social media can start as we say in England, the ball rolling, simply because we have many examples of successful stories of social media. And young authors especially, those that are called millennials nowadays, that they have this usage of social media. They do not really care if their content, if their information is shared around the world, because they find it completely normal, because they are used to share they even maybe more private things around the world. So they do not really care about the content of an article, especially if it's open access, I must say, simply because, again, they are comfortable with that. They're comfortable with the concept of that. This is a successful example from this author, Eduardo Oliveira, who's basically, as you can see, quite young, using social media. And this article has been published not much time ago, 11th of May 2015. And this article is incredibly successful because of the author's activity. And again, now Taylor & Francis, of course, is promoting this article to share, not the article, but to share the method, to share what happened to this article and how it became successful. And how can we know if an article will become successful at this, rate, if the author does not really contribute on the sharing, and then numbers, but numbers are not really, what matters is really the method. Numbers are basically a score of 51 on Altmetric, and on the most 5% most read articles tracked by Altmetrics, above all, the most read early career author, and also something that might seem a bit individualistic, but again, there's something that we spoke about in Budapest as well, the concept of career progression. So I need this impact factor, I want to become a professor, I need it because of many, many academic reasons. But if you post an article anywhere, you might find a job in a private enterprise, because people can read you, people can have an idea, and people can, start talking about your work with their colleagues and maybe hire you. And we also offer this kind of consultancy, which is video abstracts. And basically, this is something interesting that we cannot really know the impact in the future of that, because we are starting. But we offer this, let's call it consultancy, explain how it should be done. It is just a video in which the abstract is basically presented. The content of the article is presented through a video abstract. And it's much more effective than just, let's say, a text abstract, because people are more likely to be engaged because of a video. Actually, again, young people, young researchers go to YouTube before going to Google, apparently. And in YouTube, there are videos. Even in Google, a video has more weight, let's say, is more valued by the Google algorithm. So when people go to Google, they usually find videos. When they search anything, usually if you notice, you go to Google, you search anything, you have a lot of video immediately. Then you have websites, because videos, because of many commercial reasons by Google, but video are more valued by Google. So they appear more easily. So a video abstract could be something that, for a promotion of an article, for this exact like search optimization engine of Google, could be useful on this direction. And we try to offer this consultancy on how it should be made, but again, it should be made properly. So there are some things that the author should think. So which picture to use, the audio should work properly, what to say. And it is not, I have been asked a funny question in Vienna, so it is just me reading the abstract. So this is not really a video abstract. It should be something more that demonstrates the enthusiasm of the author, that demonstrates the passion of the author for the content of the article. Also, we have an imprint which is called Cogent Open Access that started to have this, let's say, compulsory requirement to publish with us, which is writing a public interest statement. What it is, it's something really simple. So along with the abstract, the author should tell the world why the content is practically materially useful. for the word itself, why that content should be read, why that content should be shared. So not only the exact content and explaining which is the content, but the reason why this content is contributing to research, to academic research, and to the development of any area that you can really any area that you can imagine. We just offer this just really simple advice on our author services team. You can write me, and then I can just direct you to them on the author services, and they can basically tell you how it should be written, how it should be done. But if you want to publish in cogent open access, it's kind of a requirement. So authors have to, if your authors want to publish in cogent open access, it is a requirement. We have another interesting project which is called Getting Your Research into Parliament. It is actually a pleasure to say that after Dr. Widmark talked about the European Parliament MPs, now we speak about British MPs, especially after Brexit. So we have both worlds. We cover all parliaments. So it is kind of an interesting project because if the author comes to us or to the library and the library comes to us, we basically can filter. We can directly send the article to this office, Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology, which is a British office, taxpayer money, especially if the author is open access on a full open access zone, which is also taxpayer money usually. So this office tries to select articles, the articles that they think that might be useful to be discussed by politicians. And again, in this case, in the British Parliament. Now, I am aware that it is not possibly the best moment of history of time to link the concept of politics and academic research, even because usually, what you know better than me, is that academic research is being changed, is being manipulated for political purposes. But we have the idea, we have the hope that if a party wants to use an academic article for political purposes, but in the parliament, the opposition party might want to use the same academic article with a different political purposes. So the debate should technically balance. So the fact that there's fortunately an opposition in Britain in this moment, this should create the balance. This should debate. We should create the correct balance, and the content, the actual scientific content of the article should be discussed. That's why we would like to see. Again, it's not easy to judge this project on a number or on a, let's say, impact metric now, because we have just started. We have just started, so I will be happy to give some more insight about the project in the future. And then the press campaign, which is basically a way to promote articles, but it is also not really, not every article is super effective, it's super, let's say, good to be promoted through a press campaign. Also, articles have to have some, that specific content that can be shared on some newspapers, that can be understood by some newspaper readers. So all of these details, again, as you can imagine, as we said about what we said about politicians, we could say about newspapers. So it depends on how the newspapers treat academic research, which newspaper treat academic research, and which readers are linked to different newspapers. But with a press campaign, we can have many articles being promoted, like this, for example, 139 articles with just one press campaign launched by Taylor and Francis. And, well, all these numbers are not easy to be read, so I apologize about that. And also, I have finished all the leaflets that I had with me, which means that they are being successful, which is good, but that I finished them, which is not good. But, well, if you want to write me or know more about it, I'm more than happy to give you details about it. And so, yes, this was kind of a brief, hopefully, and not boring overview of what we are trying to do on making research more impactful, more meaningful, because I really think that this can be proved by just of this little presentation, can be demonstrated on how, when the collaboration has been reached by the publisher, by the librarians, by the author, we have had successful stories on how the research have been impactful. And the collaboration is the key. And we have now more than ever willing to go for open access, because this is what I what I'm trying to do, or what I try to do is like to convince libraries on how important is the workflow, because it is really the workflow what matters. Then again, we can talk about economy, we can talk about business models, we can talk about offsetting models, we can talk about flipping, but this is not what we have to keep in mind here today. What we have to keep in mind here today is how difficult it is for everyone to do the process, to do the change from subscription to open access, but how possible it is as well. When everyone wants to do it, and when everyone is ready to accept the consequences of doing it. Because the consequences of doing it are not only for publishers. Because, of course, you may think that the business have consequences. Of course, any business in the publishing industry has consequences for open access, but libraries as well have really great consequences. So the workflow is key, and the change from being a content provider to being a service provider, so to help authors for future publications, is what we are trying to explain, what we are trying to deliver. So yes, this was my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Imamo še malo časa za vprašanja. We have a few time for questions.
My question is for Mr. Widmark, if possible. My question is regarding the strategy and regarding the role of European Commission and the relation between the European Commission and LIBER organization. Because I would like to ask you, are there any talk about, let's say, common research infrastructure policy at the European Commission level? Now we are faced with a situation that, the policy of publishers are to fragment marketplace and to talk with small entities, not with whole community. And, we are afraid a bit because the smaller countries could be affected more during those talks towards open science and probably be faced with different conditions. Do you did some talks, or do you plan to do some talks with European Commission regarding those questions?
Yes, I think that is really important to talk with the Commission, and the Commission is also very providing of open access. The ministries has said it will be open access 2020, and they have all signed it. Then we have to talk about the consequences for the different countries and how we can do it. So we have to raise the questions, but as LIBER is a speaking partner within EU, I think we can make a difference. But then we have to have the conversation within the community for LIBER to what should we talk about there. So we have to help each other and make that conversation.
Kakšno vprašanje?
It's a question for Nicolo. I just wanted to know if Taylor and Francis, what are the policies on flipping a journal to open access? Are they all different, or is there some standard?
Yes. So basically, there is not. Sorry, stay in the middle. There is not really a proper criteria. So it is the editorial department that analyzes journals and decides. But what we are doing is that basically it is not linked to economical reason, as you might expect. It's linked to the content and on having an idea on how that content, being open access, can be more impactful and more successful, of course, for the journals. And also, as you can see, journals get more independence when they become open access because their team decides how to manage them. We have this policy on all our journals are managed by publishers and societies, but when they become open access, there's one editorial team that gives a lot of autonomy to managing editors. So the managing editor has a lot of, let's say, ownership of the single or this package of open access journals that she owns. So basically, it is kind of a choice related to the content and related on the future, basically, relationship between the managing editor of the open access journals and the publisher.
Thank you. Some more questions?
Thank you. I wonder, I like all these services that we just heard by Nicola. I wonder how the university presses can actually then survive or compete with these kind of services, as the university presses are also sort of popping up, but will they survive? Yeah, I don't know for whom is the question, I just wonder actually.
Okay, perhaps I could have a go at answering that. The answer is yes, that we will survive. Why is that? Because, well, let's take the example of my press, and Wilhelm too, in his university also has a splendid open access university press. So perhaps I could try and speak for both of us on general principles. The strength of an open access university press is that we are absolutely entrenched in the academy. And the academics who are publishing with us know who we are, can come and talk to us. And some of the feedback we get in UCL Press is that they like publishing with us because the response time between putting in a proposal, talking through the proposal, getting peer review from our peer reviewers is very short. That means that they get an answer quickly, many say more quickly than they have usually experienced with a commercial publisher. So the value of the service that a university press can provide by being close to their academics means that it is a very attractive option for any university who wants to embrace open science and to pick the areas where it makes an offering first. So if I were starting from scratch, there are three things I think there are three things I do, and they really refer to the slide that Tiberia showed right at the end of the first presentation. The priorities that you would use to initiate an open science activity in your university. Get 100% open access by whatever route, green, gold, bronze, whatever bronze means. Some people talk about bronze, I'm not quite sure I know what bronze means. Second, have a research data management offering, and one that's grounded in training and advocacy to your early career researchers to get them working in an open environment. And the third is to set up a university press, which is a fully open access university press. And as Wilhelm and UCL Press could show, it changes the model of how academics want to disseminate their research outputs and their educational outputs. So the textbooks that I talked about are really open education. And that's a huge area which would transform the learning experience of students. All universities have to do is to publish these textbooks themselves, and we're away. That's what we can do, and that's why it's important to have a university press, an open access university press, as one of your first priorities.
Thank you very much. So we have time for one more question. No? Oh, yeah.
If there's no other question, I just simply want to repeat a question which came up in Vienna, which might be relevant for this audience here today as well. In Vienna, we had someone from St. Andrew asking a question to the speakers. If we are about to take all these new roles you are speaking about, and there are more to come, maybe next year we'll hear about lib chain things and so on, what is to be taken off the list, if to be taken something off the list? So you may want to answer yourself. In Vienna it was addressed to speakers. Publishers may suggest an answer from their point of view because they develop a relationship with researchers and libraries. I just want to repeat this question. It's not my question per se.
you ask it?
Yeah, thank you. No, I don't really have a question. It was still the answer of the previous question, which is basically really quick. So if I can give kind of an advice, in my opinion, how can we survive, everyone, publishers and university presses, in the era of Google? So how much money does Google have? How much services does Google provide? How much engineers, how many fantastic people work for Google, clever? How many algorithms Google use? How many companies Google have already bought? For all of these reasons, we are still here because of the network. So universities, university presses, fantastically important, publishers, because of the network, because of the fact that people speak to each other, because of the fact that a publisher speaks to academics, that a university speaks to academics. So the people in Google do not speak really to academic. They speak to politicians, exactly, which is really different. So this attitude, and this also tradition, are things that might seem kind of a bit old in this digital world, but these are just exactly the reason why publishers and academic university presses are still here, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. So we will finish this session. We will have lunch sponsored by Sarah and Francis. So we will be back at 1:30, please. So enjoy. Precise.
Warming up this afternoon, right?
No, it's good. No, it's good.